Every episode, we examine how corporate power, state policy, and monopoly control shape everyday life, and what it takes to push back. In this conversation, we turn our attention to leadership, to the people who are trying to change the rules from inside the system. My guest is Sally Busby, a teacher, a mother, and a candidate for Indiana State House in District 78. Her campaign centers on affordability, stability, and dignity for working families. We talk about the choices lawmakers have made over the last decade, how those decisions affect our neighbors, and what it would take for ordinary Hoosiers to be heard again. Let's get started. So hello, Sally. Thank you for joining me on Gaslit today.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here.
So I'm just going to jump right in and I'm going to fire a whole bunch of questions at you. If that's all right.
Let's go.
Okay. So you're running for State House in District 78.
I am.
And right on your site, you say, vote for our energy costs, vote for our communities, vote for our families. That doesn't sound like vague messaging. That sounds like survival messaging for people who don't know you yet. So what does that mean in plain English?
So it means that the most important thing for our community is our community. That we right now are in a survival, we are in survival mode. All of us are. And I believe that a lot of us, for those who don't know me, we don't know each other. We all are kind of siloed in our own little worlds right now. And I think we need to vote to focus on supporting one another, focus on supporting our community, and truly working together in order to create the world around us that we want. That's what it means.
So you're a teacher?
Yep.
A mom?
Yes.
And you've been in rooms with families who are already stretched thin.
Absolutely.
I saw you recently in one of those rooms. When you decided to run, what problem in this community flipped the switch from someone should fix this to I have to step in?
So for a long time, I was working so hard every day just to care for my son. My son has severe special needs, and he is 21 years old. He has the functionality of maybe an 18-month-old child, and he is 6'4", 240 pounds, and he has frustration level of a toddler. So every day we were working to just stay afloat in our world. And Indiana stepped in ways to support us and to support my son and our family. It took 5 years, but eventually our son was able to move into a group home. And this home is able to provide him with care where he feels he belongs. He has friends. My daughter is able to have attention placed on her finally for the first time. And I should have thought, okay, now that time is over, let me rest. Let me have a moment of peace. Instead, I realized that there are so many families who are struggling silently, just like we were, and that I needed to speak up on their behalf. I first knew about families who had vulnerable families who had vulnerable loved ones that they cared about, and they were not having that attention at the state house that they deserved. I was speaking to members of our state Board of Education saying, if our federal Board of Education goes away, what happens at the state level? How can we ensure that our kids with severe special needs continue to receive services that they deserve? And their answer was not great. And that's when I knew that I needed to speak up in a way to protect children just like mine. Since then, though, I've realized that there are so many other ways that families are struggling and that there are vulnerable folks all over our community that I need to speak up for, and that are not being spoken for at the State House. So that's why I decided to run. I decided to run because I love Indiana, because Indiana has given our family so much, and I want to give back in this moment where we are all struggling.
So in our first episode from Citizens Action Coalition, that they said that Indiana has essentially created a perfect environment for monopoly-style control.
Yep.
One or two companies write the rules, lobby lawmakers, and then those same laws are used to pass costs directly to people's bills. They described it as a stranglehold on policy that leaves regular people with no leverage at all. From where you sit, does that line up with what you're seeing in Southwest Indiana?
Yeah, absolutely. When I am knocking on doors, that's what I'm doing most often every weekend, is knocking on folks' doors to let them know that they have two people to vote for this time. That didn't happen last time in '78. You didn't have an option. And so when I'm sitting with people and they're sharing with me that their energy costs are higher than their rent for months, and that they are struggling to figure out when to turn on the air conditioning to get rid of the black mold in their apartment and when to keep it off. That's a concern. People shouldn't have to do without food for the last week in the month. People shouldn't have to consider whether or not their medicines are going to go bad because their electricity is shut off, and that medicine in the refrigerator is going to go bad. There are so many people who are struggling to keep the lights on and remain in their home. And those cortisol levels are high. It's not a way to function.
The Citizens Action Coalition also said that this didn't happen overnight. It's a 10 plus years of little changes at the State House that stacked up: special fees, automatic add-ons, fewer protections, less oversight. In your view, is this a policy failure, an enforcement failure, or just lawmakers doing exactly what the big players asked them to do?
Absolutely the third. So that's something that I've been researching. So like since 2013, they've passed those bills creating trackers that lets utility rates automatically rise between full rate cases. And so they have also passed laws that have reduced the authority of people who are supposed to be regulating our rates. They have passed laws that reduce their authority. They've also allowed utilities to charge customers for power plants that have not been built and will never be completed. So it didn't happen overnight. It is a decade plus of small changes that have pointed all in one direction, and that's making it easier for monopoly of utilities to increase rates and harder for those regulators to protect consumers.
So the people that I've been talking to you and that you've been talking about, we're looking at 400, 500, even 550 monthly power bills, sometimes even more. We're seeing families choosing between medication, food, rent, or keeping the lights on. We're also seeing people getting disconnected and pushed towards eviction. And once that eviction hits, kids are, they get uprooted from school and the whole family's stability just kind of shatters. Does that match what you're hearing when you're knocking on the doors in District 78?
Um, we don't have the rules in place, particularly for folks that are renting. All landlords have to do is provide a residence. They don't have to ensure that those windows are double pane. They don't have to ensure that we have insulation in those homes. They don't have to have, they can have a 40-year-old furnace. All those things that make it so that the energy costs are higher for those folks who are renting homes and paying an exorbitant amount to rent. And they are not, it is not the landlord's responsibility at this point to keep up with those energy saving costs for the families who live in those homes and are paying exorbitant amount to rent. So that's one thing that I believe that we can have laws in place that require that landlords do their part in creating a home that is energy
Efficient.
efficient,
Yeah.
energy efficient.
Yeah.
So that
At the very least, right?
yeah, but at this point, all they have to do is have give them a box that just leaks energy, and that's fine. And it's not right.
We also heard something that honestly kind of stunned me.
Mm-hmm.
Groups like townships, trustees, federal assistants like LIHEAP,
Mm-hmm.
even private charities are being drained just trying to keep people connected. And that's taxpayer and donor money bailing out a private company. Do you see that as the government quietly subsidizing monopolies' business models?
Yeah, absolutely. So this these private charities, like United Way, are stepping in with programs like Winter Assistance Fund. And that's because township trustees are using that property tax dollars for relief. But they're using so much of it that just the low income home energy assistance program, which is a federal taxpayer money, all those things, we need so much that we do need those additional private charities as well. All of it exists because people can literally not afford their bills. But the energy company that we have in Evansville, y'all, it's not a struggling company. They're Houston-based holding company with over 7 million customers in 8 states. They bought our local utility Vectren for $6 billion in 2019, and they have the resources. But instead, we're paying them back plus profit for $500 million that they spent on pollution controls for coal plants that they then retired before recovering costs, including plants that they aren't even generating electricity in anymore. It's absolutely a Publix, this for-profit monopoly where rates are unaffordable. It's a public subsidy of a private business model. So it's like we're socializing the losses while they privatize their profits.
Yeah, I thought about this too the other day. It's like I don't go to McDonald's very often, but if I did and I bought a value meal and then they taxed on an extra charge so they could build another McDonald's. That'd be I don't think I'd accept that.
Right.
It's kind of a weird model to ask Hoosiers to accept.
It is. I mean, I think we no one has asked us to accept it, right? Like, they haven't told us about it either. They're just assuming that we're just going to eat the slop that they give us. And I think we're tired of eating that slop. So the thing, we have to be educated about this, and then speak up, and then show up in numbers, share those stories, and let people know who are in control of this right now that we see it, they can't lie to us anymore, and that we demand action and something different.
So our local energy monopoly here in southern Indiana just announced what they're calling affordability actions. They're trying to take actions, and I think this is more of a PR campaign than anything. It includes a small monthly bill credit, and it has a list of resources customers can check out to see how to weatherproof their home, which we know is mostly an unaffordable thing for 44% of our population. And a lot of people heard that and said basically, well, it's what I said. I said, are you kidding me? So I'm drowning and you're handing me a cup of water. So, I mean, how does that land with you?
Well, I mean, like, you're drowning. They're handing you a cup of water, and then just yelling, yeah, drink it. But the thing is that $3 monthly credit that they say that they're giving, it's only for 6 months. So you're welcome. Thank you, $18. But we are going to see a $7 increase in our bills. So really, they are increasing it by what, $4? Instead of, so thanks, like it's not as much of an increase. That's what they're saying. They're rising to an increase to $26 a month by the end of 2025. So that $3 credit against a $26 increase, that is not relief.
So since we're entering this election cycle, what you're saying to me is that you think this isn't going to fool people. People are going to see through this.
I think that people are going to, even if they do not know that their bills are going up, and my goodness gracious, I believe everyone knows their bills are going up, and they see that piddling looking $3 and they think, that wouldn't even buy me a cup of coffee. What are you talking about? But the thing is, it's insulting. It is insulting to put in a $3 for 6 months in there and say, you're welcome, peasants. We heard you, and now keep on paying us. It's a bad look.
So as a candidate for State House, if a monopoly provider says, look, we're helping, we're giving out credits, how do you tell whether that's genuine relief or just PR, or what the proof points you'd look for? What are the proof points that you'd look for to beyond what you've already described?
So first, is it temporary or permanent? So the fact that it is temporary, that says a lot. So does it reverse the rate hike, or does it just cushion it slightly? Well, it doesn't even cushion it. And did ratepayers have a say in this, or was it just announced to manage bad press? So all of those things indicate that it's not enough.
All right, so let's have a little positive spin here. Okay, you win.
Okay.
You're sworn in. Day one, that legal power, what legal power would you actually have over the situation? Like, what can a state representative in Indiana do to rein in a monopoly utility? Bills you can file, hearings you can call, what kind of pressure you can apply, what can you do immediately out the door running?
Okay. So this is where I want to be really honest. As one state rep, I do not have a magic wand, but I do have real tools. So just like you said, I can file legislation. Bills could roll back the automatic tracker that was passed in 2013. We could restore IURC authority to actually regulate rates. And we could eliminate construction work in progress charging that makes customers pay for plants before they're built. We could also strengthen disconnection protections. So I can request those legislative hearings through committee assignments. I can call on utilities and the IURC to testify publicly and put their justifications on record. I could use this platform to keep this issue in the press and coordinate with consumer advocates like the CAC and make it politically costly for my colleagues to keep on voting with energy companies instead of the constituents that they serve. I can vote no, organize for others to vote no. And I'm going to say that I taught middle school English for 15 years. I can deal with middle schoolers. I can deal with lots of different folks, and encourage them to have other mindsets about things. This year alone, bills passed allowing utilities to charge customers for small modular nuclear reactor design costs, even if the plants are never built, and fast-tracking data center power approvals. My colleagues voted yes on that, and I'd work to vote to stop that. So I can't promise overnight change, but we need people up there who are fighting for people in Southwest Indiana. Alex Burton is doing an amazing job fighting for us, but he needs additional people.
So disconnections, that came up when you were just talking. So would you push for stronger shutoff protections, like medical protections with teeth, or seasonal moratoriums during extreme heat and cold, so people aren't literally left in the dark or risking medical emergencies because they fell behind?
Yeah. So right now, Indiana has a winter one from December 1st through March 15th. But that's only for people who've applied. And that's it. Those medical protections exist, but they only exist for 10 days. And they can get a 10-day extension, possibly with a doctor's statement. That's insulting. When people are on oxygen, dialysis, or temperature-safe, sensitive medications. So I would support legislation that creates a summer moratorium as well, not just winter. I am from the South. It gets really hot here too. And people need air conditioning, and people can have strokes or medical crises in the heat also. The CAC and the Democratic legislators tried to pass this in 2025, but it did not work that time. It died in committee. I would also strengthen medical protections so that if a doctor certifies someone, that should mean seasonal protection, not just 10 days. And then also prohibits turnoff on Fridays, weekends, or holidays because customer service isn't available then. So how can people resolve a shut off of their utilities on a Friday, a weekend, or a holiday? And also require reasonable payment plans that people can actually afford based on income.
So we talked a little bit about landlords a couple times. So right now, renters can get evicted if service is cut, and that's the majority of leases in Indiana favor the landlord. So even if they're paid up on rent, and landlords aren't required to make units energy efficient, like we were talking about earlier, would you back legislation that ties habitability standards like insulation, windows, basic efficiency, and we hit on this earlier.
Yes.
To landlords' responsibility, so renters aren't pushed for drafty, inefficient housing that they can't control.
Right. They I would absolutely support legislation that defines that the standards that include basic energy efficiency, and that would have to be named: minimum insulation, functional windows, efficient HVAC systems, and that it makes energy efficiency improvements the landlord's responsibility and not something that renters are charged for. And also protects renters from eviction when high bills are caused by landlord-controlled inefficiency. And requires energy usage disclosure before lease signing so that renters know what they're getting into. If a landlord has a drafty old building that costs $650 a month to heat it, then they need to put that out as a part of the information that a possible renter has. Renters right now are bearing the cost for problems that they didn't create and can't fix. And it's not just, and it's fixable with the right policy.
And I'd like to think that there'd be something in place too, that if you spent some of your rent money on trying to make your utility bill come down, so you spent some of your money to weatherize, maybe if it's simple things like strips, or maybe you replaced a window, maybe that could count as rent.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like, that was something that when we were renting, that just because our landlord was kind and a decent person, that was part of the plan. When we fixed or repaired something, that did go towards our rent payments. But that should be part of the policy.
So you've said you want families in Southwest Indiana to live with dignity, opportunity, and hope, and that you're running because you saw families stretched too thin and felt something had to change. So what does dignity look like in policy terms when we're talking about energy costs?
Yeah. Dignity means you don't have to choose between electricity and groceries. It means that you can keep your home at a safe temperature without fear. It means not living in constant anxiety about a disconnection notice. We need affordable base rates, not inflated by paying for utility investment mistakes or stranded costs from coal plants if they shut down. We need fair rate structures, ending high fixed charges and declining block rates that make people who use the least energy pay the highest rates per kilowatt hour. We need real protection from disconnection, medical protections, seasonal protections, income-based payment plans that don't require impossible deposits. We need energy efficiency support, strong weatherization programs that lower bills and improve living conditions, especially for people who can't afford upgrades themselves. We need transparency and voice, knowing what you're paying for on your bill and having meaningful input when rates are set. This current system, it treats affordable energy as privilege you earn by having enough money. And I believe it's a necessity you deserve as a human being.
So to the people listening right now, I think a lot of people are scared and a lot of people are angry. Some of them are literally one bad week away from shut off, eviction, or even both. So what do you need them to do specifically to be heard at the State House? Show up, call, tell their story, vote. What's the move you want them to make next?
Tommy, all of those things. First, tell your story publicly. That is so important for people to hear these stories, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Last year, we had IURC hearings on the energy rate case right here, and they were the highest historic turnout at those hearings ever. The Citizen Action Coalition filed more than 2,300 written consumer comments. And all of this matters. We can testify at hearings. We can share our story right here or with CAC. We can contact our current representatives and senators. We can call, we can email, and show up at town halls. And we should be specific. Give them actionable steps to go with. So I need you to support summer disconnection and oppose tracker expansions. Say something that is specific and actionable that representative and senator can support for you because they are working for you. And make them take that position and say, I'm going to call back and check in to see what you've done. Also vote and tell others to vote on this issue. Know that the people in charge of this are at the State House level. They aren't at the federal level. They're not at the city level. And we can vote at the State House level to get our needs met. And then support these organizations doing this work all the time. That Citizens Action Coalition, the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Counselor, they need our voices and support to counter this utility lobbying power. The last thing is just talk to your neighbors. One person is a complaint, but 20 people on the street, that's a political problem for a legislature. So we can coordinate, we can show up together, and we can make noise together.
All right, this is the last question I got for you, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So finish this sentence. If I'm elected, here's how folks in District 78 will know I'm actually fighting for them on energy costs and not just talking about it during a campaign season.
Okay. So you're going to see me at those IURC hearings when Centerpoint files their next rate case. I'm going to be testifying. I'm going to be asking hard questions, and I'm going to be making the case for ratepayers on the record. You're going to see legislation with my name on it addressing trackers, disconnection protections, and landlord efficiency requirements. and I'll report back on which legislatures vote it down and why. You'll get regular updates on what bills are moving that affect your utility costs. And I'm a teacher. I'm going to provide this information in normal people language. Just straight talk about what's happening and ensuring that your voice is heard. And I will vote no on every utility giveaway bill. And I'll work to build people alongside me who will do the same. Because the system works because bills keep on passing. Every single law the CAC identified needs votes to pass. I'll be a public, consistent no vote, and I will recruit others. This isn't a one-term job for me. It's about rebalancing a system that's been rigged for 14 years. And it takes sustained effort, and I'm committed to it.
Well, I'm so thankful that you came and talked to me today. It's been the highlight of my day, actually, after a long week of advising. So I encourage everybody to visit sallyforindiana.com to learn more about her platform and show her some support. And I'll leave that in the show notes. But I thank you so much for being here on Gaslit.
Thank you. Goodness gracious, thank you for doing this. All of us are in this together.
So that was my conversation with Sally Busby, candidate for State House in District 78. Her perspective highlights something simple but critical: the distance between the people writing the laws and the people living with the results. The families, renters, and small businesses she's meeting every weekend aren't asking for favors. They're asking for fairness. If you want to learn more about Sally and her campaign, visit sallyforindiana.com. And if her story or yours connects with what we're talking about here, share it. Talk to your neighbors, your representatives, and each other. The first step toward change is refusing to stay quiet. I'm Tommy Housman, and this is Gaslit, the Power of Story. Thanks for listening.